Hello and welcome to Honest Faith Conversations. As always, I am your host, co-host Miguel Covarrubias.
And I'm Kathy Covarrubias, and today we're talking about Doctor Strange.
Welcome to the show this week. This week I've been having a few computer issues, so we are actually recording from our laptop, which the sound may be a little bit off, so we apologize for that. Anyway, this week we are going to be talking about Marvel's Doctor Strange, and we are not talking about the 1970s one. We are talking about the one that came out last year.
What? You never told me? Oh, gosh, I watched the wrong one.
Well, that's your problem.
Ugh. I wish, we would plan these things ahead of time.
Anyway. Spoiler warning, for those of you who have not seen it yet, it is available on almost all digital streaming services that you can find it for rent and stuff like that. You cannot find it on Netflix or anything else like that, but,
Like Hulu?
Yeah, most of the other places that you can find it, so. Yeah, let us jump into it.
Okay, so we watched it this morning, which was kind of nice because it kind of refreshed a lot of things.
Yeah, I really wanted to take a moment to talk about something that somebody said in the very beginning. It was the one character that says to Doctor Strange when he's talking about being healed at the place, and Doctor Strange says to him, "You walked out of a place that nobody was able to return from, and I'm trying to find my own way back." And so I was struck by that because of where I've been in the past couple of months is trying to find my own way back to faith after kind of my own traumatic event. Of course, it was not a big car accident where I lost the use of my hands or anything, but it was my own kind of a significant moment in that. And
yeah, I think the similarities is like the accident kind of knocked him off of the path he thought he was supposed to be on.
Yeah,
like similar to you, like you thought you were on the path you were supposed to be on, and then all of a sudden you had to cut off that path.
And well, one of the things that struck me while we were watching it this morning was that when he was in the area that he was supposed to be in, I can't remember what he said, but in the Himalayas. We'll just put it that way.
Kathmandu?
Kathmandu, there we go. He saw a sign and it said, "Heal yourself, find yourself." And it was advertising for Himalayan healing. And so I think that this kind of encapsulates what the entire movie was kind of really talking about, was kind of that the entire movie was about healing. And it was about healing yourself and finding yourself. And this is something that Doctor Strange kind of struggles with through the entire movie, and you see this through several different ways that he goes about it. But the big one was that what the Ancient One says to him, kind of right away in her kind of spiel to him, was that use the spirit to heal the body. And he's going off on the whole thing where he's a skeptic, and he doesn't believe in Eastern mysticism and stuff like this to heal the body, that we're all just kind of a pile of cells, that there's no such thing as a spirit. Which there's been quite a bit of debate, in fact.
Yeah.
Not exactly spirit, but whether or not human beings have souls. And even within the whole Christian religion, there is still a lot of debate over whether or not Christians Christians don't have souls, whether or not human beings have souls. And so
I don't necessarily think there's a debate. I think that Christians believe that there's a soul.
No, there is a debate, and in fact, it's not really that common. It's not really out there quite a bit because obviously it's not that popular. Biggest debates within the Christian church right now are whether or not we should care about other human beings or the environment and stuff like that. But that's a story for another controversial issue and for another broadcast. But yeah, there is that debate. We kind of talk a little bit about what is real, and this is the question that the Ancient One asked Stephen Strange during that whole montage there, where he's going on that acid trip, which I think would have been more fun if you'd been high, or
Yeah.
or you watched it in
Not so terrifying.
3D, with all the hands and everything else. That might have put you on a bad trip, though. I don't know. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about finding your own way back, and there is that whole thing that I went through this past year. Is I had kind of put it out there that I wanted to be a minister since I was little. That I always thought that I was meant for ministry. I was kind of put myself out there for that. I went to college for it, and I pursued it for the majority of my life. And I got hit quite a bit by the church. There was a lot of moments where I really began to question it, whether, am I meant for this? And am I supposed to be doing this? Am I supposed to be on this path? And, I've written a book about my experiences on this, and, I'm kind of looking for a literary agent now. So if you're a literary agent and you're listening to this, you should email us at honestfaithconvos@gmail.com. Just a little plug there, but... it's been, a little difficult for me to try to find my way back. And I know that it's, for a lot of people, they would have given up at this point. And this is, you have Stephen Strange, who is, obviously this very brilliant and very gifted surgeon. And, now without the use of his hands is trying to find his way back. And you know that... it's a very humbling experience, and for anybody, a humbling experience is going to be very, well, obviously humbling, but painful. It's difficult to kind of go through that, and
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So it's really kind of tough to figure out what is real and what you really want out of life, because you've had these dreams for what you've wanted this entire time, and suddenly they're gone. Suddenly you have no real direction in your life. You're lost, and you're looking for something to hold on to, and you've kind of gotten to this point where you don't have anything there. It's kind of like you're I don't know, floundering in a way. You're looking for your path, and it just doesn't exist.
Well, I think his path does exist. He just is not aware of what his right path is, which makes it so traumatic for him.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to say, is that he's holding on to his old path. He's holding on to this image that he has of himself of, being this gifted surgeon, and that he needs the use of his hands back. And so this entire time he's looking for a way to get himself back to that point. And I love what this movie did, and this is something that it doesn't happen this way in the comics or even in the animated Doctor Strange movie. If you watch that one, which came out a few years ago, I think it was 2010, 2012 that came out. But that Doctor Strange regains the use of his hands through this whole process. But in this movie, in the 2016 movie, he doesn't. He's still shaky. He's still got injured hands at the end of the movie, which I think is, I think was a brilliant decision on the filmmaker's part.
Yeah, because it goes to show that even if something traumatic like that does happen, that there's still going to be ways around that ailment, you know?
Yeah.
Like, heck, there's people who don't have arms who can drive, who can, you know, brush their teeth, brush their hair, can, like, go through life day to day. And they, sure, like, they have more obstacles than everybody else, but he should have looked to them and be like, hey, at least I have my arms. At least if they can go through life with what they have, I should be able to go through life with what I have.
Yeah. And this really hits on another point in this is something that the Ancient One says to Mordo during the training kind of montage segment of the movie, which is that she says, "We never lose our demons. We only learn to live above them." And throughout the movie, you kind of see that Doctor Strange's kind of whole weird relationship with time, and they're doing this to kind of show, you know, what the Eye of Agamotto and the whole the Time Stone.
Yep, and the fact that he collects a bunch of watches, and then in that alley when he gets beaten up, that watch is broken, but yet he still keeps it.
And he's, he's stuck into this whole idea of what if. You know, this whole bad relationship with time is that if he could go turn back time and repair himself, he would. But he wouldn't learn anything then.
I think at one point in his life, yeah, he would turn back time.
Yeah.
However, I think through this course of this movie, he realizes if he were to do that, he wouldn't have been able to gain all this other knowledge that he was able to obtain by going through that accident.
And then you have his whole thing with names throughout the movie is, you know, he kind of, when he talks to anybody is you had pointed this out about his name, about his title. Mm-hmm.
By the way, I don't know if anybody's worked in customer service, but you may get those people who like have a specific title. And yes, some titles like doctor, you went to school for that title. You went to school for those, that amount of degree of respect. I totally understand that. However, I'm not a big fan of people who get angry at the fact that I am not aware that they're a doctor and I accidentally call them Mr. or Ms. instead of doctor, and then they like freak out at me. Like it's one thing to be like, oh, you can please call me Dr. so and so. Like I would respect that. But the fact that they're like, it's Doctor Strange. It's like, oh, sorry, like how was I to know that you were a doctor? Like you didn't come to me in your lab coat, like I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, that's my kind of beef about titles.
Yeah, but say what you said about him during the movie about his title.
Well, you say it if you remember. I don't remember.
Well, you said that you could tell that he respects somebody by the way that he treats them using his title and using his name.
Oh yeah. Okay. So like. When he respects somebody, like for example, when he first meets the librarian, and I can't remember his name,
Wong.
When he first meets Wong, he says, "Oh, call me Steven." Instead of call me Doctor. But when he first meets the Ancient One, like he's still referring to himself as Doctor, like he's still trying to keep up that persona of I'm very important.
Well, and the Ancient One continues to refer to him as Mr. Strange throughout the entire thing. So, and to kind of show her lack of respect for his title and kind of showing him that
lack of respect of his arrogance,
that he knows nothing, Jon Snow. So, that's kind of his demon also that he's struggling with, his own arrogance, his own kind of his own lack of knowledge for the things that he doesn't know. And I mean, you see that when he's with Wong, and that when he releases that a little bit, he says, call me Steven, because he realizes he doesn't know everything, and that Wong knows more than he does. And so it's kind of throughout the entire movie that he kind of struggles with that with that demon in itself is his name and his arrogance. Then you have the struggle with the demon of death, with that, kind of that one's own mortality. And you have this in Caecilius, who, is, the whole reason why he steals this thing is to have immortal life, is to, make sure that he has the power to, turn back time and make sure that he doesn't die, and has, makes a deal with Dormammu so that, he can have eternal life, which, the Ancient One has also done or something, but she does it much better because Tilda Swinton doesn't have the weird eyes.
No, well, I don't think, like, she directly dealt with Umamu, or whatever his
Dormammu.
name. Dormammu. I think she got her, became the Ancient One another way. Like, still through that dimension, but just another way.
Yeah. Well, and something that she says through this it kind of ties this whole thing together, which is what she's also talking to Mordo. No, it was to Doctor Strange. She says that you cannot beat a river into submission. That, and she's talking about this whole thing is that you surrender to its current. I think that's the way it is with almost anything in life, that it comes about through patience, through work, and through surrender of these things. Is that if you're trying to find your way back from whatever it is that you're struggling with through that transition, if you're trying to find that transition out, that it takes patience, it takes work, and it takes surrender. That you've got to give up that whole idea of yourself as being, this gifted and talented surgeon, or you have to give up this whole idea of yourself being a minister, or you have to give up this whole idea of whatever it is, and really work at what it is that you want to do. And, this is something that I'm slowly coming to realize myself throughout this entire process, is that, it takes time, and it takes patience, it takes work. And I mean, if you've been following along in any of our creative, my creative work during this time, you've seen in the blog and with our podcast and with the Express of Spiritual Readings and the interviews. By the way, if you're listening to this and you would like to be interviewed about your faith, here's another plug for something else that I'm doing. Email me at honestfaithconvos@gmail.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'm going to be starting a new podcast as soon as I've got enough of those interviews kind of compiled. But that's another creative project that I've been doing, is kind of interviewing people about their faith and about current events. And, just everyday normal people. So this is something that I'm finding, it really takes patience. It really takes work and surrender to these things. I mean, there is this, there's this phrase that has been, I don't remember who's attributed to the quote, that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in anything. And that's patience, that's work. You've got to practice at something. Which, another reason why we're not professional podcasters yet is because, we're not experts at doing this. We've only been doing this for a few months, and we're only up to, 10 hours of podcast episodes. So we're still learning. Any tips out there would be great. And I think this is the whole process of healing. And, I mean, we talked a lot about this in our episode on the OA, is... they kind of deal with a lot of very similar kind of out there ideas about the multiverse and about, afterlife and stuff like this. But in this one, it's about healing and about healing oneself in this universe. And there's something that Caecilius says to Doctor Strange kind of near the end there. He says, the same thing that brought you to the place for their learning. I can't remember the name of it right now, but that you were searching for healing, the same as we all were. And I think that's the thing that we do. We kind of search for our healing in our different ways, and we do some weird things when we're searching for healing. And I talked about this in our This Is Us podcast about the pilot episode about our story, that I did some things that I'm not proud of. I'm not proud of the way that I treated people when I was healing. I was searching for healing. I was searching for wholeness. I was looking for, somebody to help me, to, kind of take me along and to show me what it was like, what it looked like to make lemonade out of those sour lemons that we were given. And, it's this thing that people just do when they're looking for healing, that, hurting people end up hurting people.
Yeah, it's really easy to do because you are a lot of times when you're hurting and you're trying to heal, you're so focused on yourself that you forget about other people's feelings around you. And so as a result, you can end up saying or doing something that's going to hurt the people around you. And it's also kind of also brings up How I Met Your Mother and the circle of yelling. Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah, the circle of yelling.
So you'll get yelled at, and then you take out the anger of being yelled at on somebody else who's just a little bit below you, and so you yell at them, and then they're hurt, and so then they yell at somebody else, and so it just kind of the circle of yelling continues.
The chain of yelling, and then he changes it to the circle of yelling at the end. By the way, How I Met Your Mother is available on Netflix, I think, still. So, if you haven't watched that series, go and watch it. It's a good series.
We should
Up until you've seen the end, and then you watch the series over again, you're kind of disappointed, and it's not the same as it was ever before. No.
Well, there's two camps in that thought, but anyway.
Yeah. It ruins the entire series, I think. People also do this thing, and this is kind of something that you kind of saw another path that Doctor Strange was going to end up going to throughout this entire process, was you saw him hurting Dr. Palmer, by yelling at her and kind of laying into her in the movie, but he was also going to start to go down this path of self-medicating. I didn't show him, turning into drinking and all this other stuff. And this is something that, in the comic books, by the way, Tony Stark ends up doing. There's this whole comic book issue about Tony Stark struggling with his demon of drinking, of being a drunk. And, we both come from families where, we've had experience with people who have kind of turned to this self-medicated procedure, this process of self-medicating, and which is it's a horrible cycle once it gets started, because then you kind of get into the cycle, the circle that you get hurt, and then whenever you're hurt, you want to self-medicate, and when you're not self-medicating, you're hurting, so that you go and you self-medicate some more, and it just gets bad. And, it's a horrible cycle sometimes. And, if you ever feel like you're in that spot, if you ever feel like you're so lost and you're so hurting that you can't really find your way back, I really hope that you take the opportunity to seek out help. Don't think that you can do it on your own, because the truth is we can't always do these things on our own. And this is something that, I think this movie really kind of shows in this, is that you can't do it on your own.
And you should not be ashamed to seek help. In fact, it's a sign of strength to be able to recognize that you need the help and to find the people or the place that's going to be able to give you that help.
I'm sure there is somebody out there who's willing to talk to you. And if not, most health medical insurances cover mental health.
Right now.
Right now, until, things change. But that's,
That's a different topic.
that's a controversial issue for another day. So I also, throughout the movie, I kept thinking of alternate titles for Doctor Strange because we have, that's kind of just my thing. When I'm sitting down and watching something, those are the things that run through my head. What I kept thinking about was, like Doctor Strange or How I Stopped Worrying and Learned to Love the Mystic.
Or Doctor Strange and why you shouldn't drive with your cell phone distracting you.
Or Doctor Strange or Sherlock versus Hannibal Lecter. And, the things that kind of popped through my head. Anyway, let's move on to our controversial issue segment. Here's one. The very first one, which came out before the movie even was released, was about Tilda Swinton being cast as the Ancient One. And that's the whitewashing of Hollywood.
Yes, which has been happening since the dawn of Hollywood.
Just not even starting to get into that. But, as a half Mexican Latino man myself, I can't really speak to some of those things. And I feel bad speaking to some of that being half white, is that I don't feel like I'm Mexican enough, or I'm not, I'm not minority enough to actually speak to these things. But, I can understand why they decided to cast Tilda Swinton in that role and to make her Celtic rather than...
Yeah, but they threw that in there because everybody was mad about it. Well,
they threw it in there because they weren't going to make the Ancient One Tibetan like he was supposed to be. He's this Tibetan monk, and if they're going to sell movies in China, which, China's the number one buying power for movies right now.
If he was Tibetan, then they would lose their buying power in China. Actually, they would not have shown it in China.
Exactly, because anything that recognizes that Tibet exists is not okay according to China. Mm-hmm. So, which makes this episode of our podcast not okay in China, apparently. So, but I think Tilda Swinton did a good job of doing what she was supposed to do in the movie. She was already in a similar movie for DC. She was in that Constantine movie, by the way. She was in she was Gabriel in Constantine. Mm-hmm. She was also the White Witch in the Chronicles of Narnia.
What? You don't say. Well, and it's not, it'd be one thing if it was if it happened once.
Yeah.
Or whatever. However, this happens all the time. How many times have, for example, people who are Middle Eastern or Mexican tend to play either Middle Eastern or Mexican for some reason?
Oh, this is something that I disliked about 24, is that 24, for people who were Middle Eastern, they had Mexicans playing them.
Yeah.
So many Mexicans playing Middle Eastern characters, and you're like, what? Just because they have brown skin? That guy obviously looks Latino. He does not look Middle Eastern.
Yeah, and, and all of those, the string of Egyptian movies that came out.
The Gods of Egypt,
yeah.
Where the level of white people was too high.
Or the one that's coming out soon, the Great Wall. Is that what? Whatever.
Great Wall, yeah, with Matt Damon.
Gosh,
yeah.
I'm Matt Damon, really Matt Damon, really.
Was Matt Damon the savior of the Great Wall of China?
Just those trailers make me cringe. I'm just ugh.
Well, I think they brought this up in 1A episode on the Academy Awards was about the fact that because of last year's Oscars So White kind of campaign that they tried to include a lot more movies that had diversity in them, and the truth is, none of those movies actually won anything until the end there. Which, and even then, it was kind of like that whole mistake with Moonlight and La La Land, and that was just kind of. Yeah, even though they nominated them, they still didn't win. Like Denzel Washington should have won for Fences. I just, I have to say, but that's a different story for a different day. Here's another controversial issue: is Eastern medicine is the way.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like half and half, kind of on there, because there's certain things like acupuncture, like there has been there's actual studies out there that show that it does and can reduce people's pain depending on what it is.
Yeah.
And then there's other stuff that I'm just not so convinced on. Like the use of animal parts and that kind of stuff, which is still kind of common. I'm just no.
Well, I think that on some level it is a placebo effect. There is kind of that it works for those who believe it works. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there is still a lot out there that we don't understand, that we don't know about. That and I like how the Ancient One says it: just because your senses don't pick it up doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And I think that there is some level on those things that I would like to find out if they actually if they would work.
Well, some of it is so hard to do because, for example, aromatherapy, there's a
essential
scent to it.
Oils and stuff
Yeah.
like that. We're not going to get into that. That's a completely different thing.
Well, it's kind of sort of tied into it though, because
Yeah.
a lot of the Eastern medicine kind of has it ties in with herbs and that kind of stuff, which also tie in with essential oils, because both are perceived as being more quote unquote natural.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But interesting, the placebo effect that you were talking about. Studies have been shown that a third of the people who know they are given a placebo, knowingly know that they are given the placebo, still see some benefit from the placebo. And there's they're given just nothing, and there's still some kind of benefit. So, that just blows my mind. I'm like, what? Your body can be tricked into almost anything, is what it tells me.
Yeah, your body has the power to kind of heal itself, and there is this actually goes back to what we've been talking about this whole healing kind of thing, is that there was something that a pastor that I was working for before, he had said in a sermon, and this kind of stuck with me, was there is this passage that Jesus is healing people, and there's this woman that comes up to him, and he asks her, "Do you want to be healed?" And so the pastor did a whole sermon on the fact that, on this whole question, do you want to be healed? And he talked about how you have to want to be healed to actually be healed. And I think that's part of it, is that, our bodies, can be healed if we want to be healed. And you see these people who, they wallow in the pity that they're given. Mm-hmm. And, there's whole, mental disorders around this whole thing. And so...
Well, and people, I've heard, I don't know how credible these are, I'm just going to throw that out there, but I've heard of stories of couples who are elderly, and one will die, very shortly after the other,
Mm-hmm.
If not, a couple hours, maybe up to, a couple days, but, how does that, what's the chances of that happening? So the other must have, willed themselves to die. There's...
Or if you're a fan of The Notebook, they die at the same time.
Oh, gosh. Mm-mm. I am not a fan of The Notebook.
Oh, Nicholas Sparks.
Mm-mm. Nope. Giving young ladies the wrong idea of what love is like.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's just unrealistic.
Yeah.
What I was just saying. It's like the adult
There's a
version
connection there because, Rachel McAdams was both in this movie and in The Notebook. So,
yeah. Well, they still give, it's like how Disney tells little girls. It's kind of like the adult Disney.
Yeah.
in my mind.
The adult Disney.
Adult Disney of romance.
You heard it here first. Nicholas Sparks is the adult Disney.
Anyway, so that's moving on to the next one.
Next one, controversial issue is the multiverse. Well, this is not really exactly a controversial issue per se, but it's more or less a scientific theory of whether or not you believe in it. And I want to believe that there are multiple universes, and that's what I meant by before is that you can't. We don't know everything that there is to know. That there is, there are these things that interact with us, and they're paranormal things around us. And by the way, that's going to be one of the podcasts that we can talk about this week is one that's going to deal with the paranormal, but. And I'll talk about that here in just a second, but is that I think the paranormal live on another plane of existence and interact with our dimension in different ways and stuff like this, and that I think is a controversial issue in itself. Is the paranormal, is that how those other I don't want to say dimension because I think dimensions are is the wrong word for this because dimensions are height, width, and length, and
so do you prefer like other universes,
or other
parallel
planes,
universes?
or
Okay,
because planes of existence where other is kind of a better way to kind of deal with it. Especially with things like ghosts and stuff like that, is I think it's other planes of existence. And like I said before in another podcast, and I think it was the OA one, where we talked about how I think that the afterlife, that heaven and hell and our plane of existence, that they all occupy the same space area, and maybe not the same time area, because I think they exist in another dimension of the full fourth dimension. But I think that they kind of exist here, and it's just a matter of perspective, kind of thing. So,
what I was just thinking. In oh my god, what's that movie? They are finding another place to live, and another Earth. Earth is dying.
There's a lot of those movies. That's a comic book.
Okay. No, it was a movie. It came out not too long ago. He ended up going into the fourth dimension to go tell his daughter about.
Yeah, that's one we should probably do too.
What is it called?
Christopher Nolan movie. What
is it called? What is it called? Oh my gosh! Okay, people, I know
Interstellar.
Yes, Interstellar. Thank you. I know there's probably people shouting at us like Interstellar.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey.
Yes. Okay. So, looking at. What I was saying is when he is in that fourth dimension, going to try to tell his...
Oh, yeah, the Tesseract, which means a completely different thing in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, when he's in there, trying to give his daughter messages, that is very similar to when Doctor Strange is first going through the multiverse. Mm-hmm. The fact that you see folds of time and that kind of stuff, I find it's very similar and maybe kind of along the same lines.
Exactly. Is that it's a plane of existence outside of what we can see and feel and interact with. So let us move on to closing up the episode, and to close this out, I want to talk a little bit about this month of March is a big podcaster month. It is the Tripod Month. So we are doing something on our Facebook page. On my Honest Faith Facebook page, we have been sharing our favorite podcasts with the hashtag Tripod, and also sharing how exactly to find them on what app that you need to kind of download to do this. We did a lot of our the popular episodes this week, and this next week we are going to be talking about a few of our not so popular podcasts.
Some of our favorite non-popular podcasts.
And I put this out on Twitter this last week. We got a lot of great responses, and if you have any podcasts that we should listen to, tweet at us about that using the hashtag Tripod. Today we're going to post this one using the hashtag tripod because, Sundays we're all about promoting ourselves and our own show because, we got to do that ourselves. But
every other day we're looking out for other podcasters.
Yeah. And this week you'll be hearing about a paranormal one that I actually just listened to, which I actually really enjoyed. I like what she did with the episode and with the way that she kind of structured it. Mm-hmm. So, if you've got a favorite podcast, share it with your friends. Share it with somebody who does not know about podcasts. Because I heard recently the statistic that like 45% of Americans have no idea what a podcast is.
Well, for example, like just last year, I wasn't listening to podcasts. Like the only reason why I started listening to podcasts was because a coworker of mine was talking about some of his favorite podcasts, and I was kind of interested. Like he kept on wanting to engage in conversations about it, and I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about, guy. And so I found podcasts because somebody told me and showed me. So I am a testament, right, of how this works.
So, for us, we are on Spreaker, of course. You can also find us on most of the other popular podcast apps. We're even on iTunes. By the way, a little tip for other podcasters out there. If you're only on iTunes, people who use Android phones can't download you. So you may want to branch out a little bit.
We're
just saying. Because we have mostly only Android phones and Android devices.
We may or may not be anti-Apple, just a little bit.
Yeah. You can find us at any time on the website, thehonestfaith.com. We are on most social media platforms, Tumblr, on Twitter, on... I am on Reddit. I don't have an Honest Faith Reddit account, but I'm on there, and I talk to some Redditors about podcasting sometimes.
Yep, and I am on Twitter.
Yep.
So you can find me on Twitter as well.
On the Facebooks. So check it out on the Facebooks. Honest Faith, real Honest Faith there. And with all that being said, and the other promos that I said in this episode, with that being said, if you want to be interviewed about your faith, shoot us an email. Be a part of the conversation. So with that being said, come and join the conversation.
Bye.